Mr. Hood. What was
Oh,
what was the
yeah, no,
reaction?
no, Mr. Hood was, very well received. And obviously you had the the formation of like the God Squad with Brand Nubian and with KMD, and also having leaders on Elektra. So they were put out on promotional tours with them, and that's where I said that picture with Tupac that surfaced out there. That's in that period where it was KMD out on the road with those guys, and they were learning a lot and just taking it to their. They were like coming into their own, like doing their own thing, and developing their stage show, the stage presence,
Right.
and I think that's where Doom also came more into his own. And that's where Sub Rock really shined. And also they had like Jay Quest, the Boogeyman, the Dancers, that whole crew. That was a very animated crew that they had with them, and they really made a mark for themselves. And but like I said, at the same time, they're devout Muslims. They've got their message, and they're I think before when they were going out with the road with us, they were much more stringent. Like they weren't drinking or smoking or anything. And then at some point, teenagers, adolescents, you know, they they started to partake actually, and then just that developed into kind of like the attitude of Black Bastards.
Right after Mr. Hood dropped, you guys dropped your sophomore album. Both of them turned 30 this year. What do you remember the most about collaborating with them guys on Ace in the Hole?
Oh yeah, well, and that was another good thing. So we were able to, in addition to helping them get on and get their actual first album, we could say, hey, let's do a jam together on the new album. So I remember how excited Sub Rock was when I asked him. I said, hey, because he had played me this loop. I forget which loop that was that he played me. It was like the bass line. He played me the bass line loop, and I was like, damn, that shit is crazy. And he's like, yo, let's kick it together. I'm like, yo, we should really. So then I got together, called Serge, said like, yo, let's do this song. And I'm not sure who came up. I can't really remember who came up with the concept of calling it Ace in the Hole. But it could have even been Doom or Sub who had that in the back of their head. I'd have to go way deep into my cranium to find the answer to that one. But that's one where it was a lot. We did that in Chungking, so they were able to get loose on their own as producers. So being hired by Def Jam and another group to actually put together something. At that same time, we were doing jams with Nice and Smooth, Microphone Techniques, and Kick 'Em in the Grill with Chubb Rock. So actually on that album was probably the most fun making an album just because of those collaborations. Like those sessions with Chubb and Nice and Smooth and KMD were crazy.
With Mr. Hood, do you think Zev Love X achieved what he came to do with that album, or where was his train of thought after that album? Was he satisfied with that project as a whole?
Oh yeah, I mean, listen, I'm sure they would have. Everybody wants to go gold, wants to sell as many records as you can, but no, I think that that album came out exactly like you. If you look at the genius of the skits, of just the flow of the songs, because back I can appreciate appreciating an entire album or a theme, and De La was one of the first to really institute that, where the album told the whole story, almost had chapters, had interludes, and just the sampling was such a creative platform where you could take so many other genres of music and flip them. And that was like Doom's essence. Like he look at samples of Sade and other things he did later on. Like, what did Iggy know was Jody Watley? I mean, he took something that was, you know, straight R&B and turned it into like a street record,
Right.
with a very powerful message behind it.
You talked about them getting picked up for another album after the success of the first one. What was his thought process going into Black Bastards? What was the concept? What was he talking about with this sophomore album?
Well, at that time, obviously they're getting a little older. Um, I had started my own label, Hoppo Recordings, and this is at the point that I think me and Search had almost close to split up, and Doom started hanging out with Curious George and the CM crew uptown, and like putting that, just creatively putting those two groups together, and plus, like they're all like the kings of snapping, like it was like a comedy show, but also like they would party, like they would be drinking 40s, smoking that shit. Like all those records were like real. They had, just a real connection and hung out hard. So that like innocent group of, you know, the the devout Muslims who were selling oils and going to the Ansar community were now like, you know, just coming to their own like as adolescents or whatever, and experiencing a whole nother, street life, so to speak. And, you know, artistically, I think collaborating with George and, at that time with Bob having the show, starting the show, there was, a lot more that Doom, basically wanted to get out. And Black Bastards also, the whole concept of the anti-Sambo, to try to destroy the mindset of like the minstrel mentality. That was something that was like the looming force behind Black Bastard. And as we know, that was what ultimately, caused the corporate side to actually drop, KMD after we had done the whole album. But going into that album, because they only sold 150, Elektra had like reduced the budget. So like we really had no choice other than to say, okay, well, let's just do it and, hope for the best, when it hits. And, there was, loads of interest, especially with What a Nigga Know, which was also, it started with it being What a Nigga Know and then being changed to What a Nigga Know for radio and just for, the label heads. And, then it developed into such a larger controversy over the album cover, as you know.
Right. At what point did Sub Rock pass away during this recording process? Was it in the middle? Was it after the album was finished?
What happened was they were working to start out the album, and Onyx was still in the group, and they moved up to the Ansar community up in Monticello with Dr. York. Dr. York had a studio, so Doom did all the original recording and laying down the tracks in that studio with Sub Rock. Started with Onyx, then Onyx left the group because, when they started hanging out uptown, Onyx, he was still had his own spiritual path, and there was just a little rift there where Onyx wanted to continue on the spiritual path. So we did all of the tracking there. I remember that Doom had promised Dr. York's studio that I think that they would do a minimum of 100 hours up there. And I think they ended up only doing like 50 or 60. So I got like this letter from Dr. York's studio saying, hey, we gave you $85, $50 an hour because he said it was going to be 100. Now I got to charge you $85. So, it was just on a business tip. We just said, listen, let's take what we did there and let's figure out where we're going to continue it. And I had an engineer named Rich Keller who was working on my solo material with guy Adam Gazzola, who had a studio in his crib on 14th Street. So Rich also, at this point, you could get the type of board and with computers to actually recreate a Chung King in your house on a less of a level, but still sonically you would still get a very strong sound for a cheaper price. And Rich had set up this studio in his house, so we made a decision with Doom to record at Rich's crib. So Doom and Sub started recording there, and it was at the time while they were recording there that Sub tragically passed. So he got killed in that time period, and then, obviously Sub had done all his rhymes and, all the production he did at this point. And then Doom from that point on was like mixing the record. He was, dealing with the loss of his brother, and ended up finishing all of the tracking, all of the recording that he had to do, all the interludes. And then finally with Rich, we mixed it at Chung King. So it was like almost like a 3-tier process and it took a long period of time, because if you look, another thing with like Wikipedia or all these like, information outlets, a lot of people say, oh, Sub Rock died 1 week, and then next week Doom got dropped from KMD. No, from Elektra. No, it took a year. There was a whole year before. So then we had the lead up into Black Bastards with the development of the marketing plan, the promo, the artwork with the cover of the album, and it was a long process, and even longer because of what Doom was going through emotionally, losing his brother, who was like his right hand man in the studio too.
Could you say at this point that you guys kind of lost contact around this time?
Well, no, when Doom got dropped, when KMD got dropped from Elektra, which was a travesty, and it was tied up more in like the Ice-T cop killer controversy, where Warner Brothers just had no backbone for any type of criticism. People, Sylvia Rohn and Havelock Nelson and another writer at Billboard had called it out for being offensive, called out the executives at Elektra, and everybody just caved. It wasn't Dante's fault at all. He was, one of the ones who was down with us, like fighting for it. Even, Bill Adler helped us put out a couple of statements, showing the hypocrisy of the music industry. And I know even like the source, like John Schechter, the Sultan, he wrote a great piece at that time showing the hypocrisy of the labels and how shameful it was. But at that time, at this point, like before Black Bastards, even before me and Serch had broken up, Doom and Sub Rock had split from Serch. They didn't want Serch to have anything to do with their project. So Riff Productions pretty much became me. So, KMG just, for numerous reasons, just continued and wanted me to manage them. So when I started Hoppo with Bob, we had Hit You Off management, and Bob was managing Artifacts and H2O, and then, Hit You Off was managing KMD. Now, I would handle all the day-to-day with KMD, and Bob would deal with the other groups that he brought in. But, we were the full management at that time, and Serch was no longer involved. So I actually had the job when it was dropped from Elektra to try to place it somewhere else. So me and Bob have our own like pseudo label deal, and we got Faith Newman, supporting George and all of our other projects and even other ones. And we're trying to get it signed with Faith, and David Kahn was one of the A&R guys. And, it's like they heard it and they wanted to, but they were afraid to pick it up. Like it was just this corporate toxic nature of what had been set as a precedent by Warner Brothers. So then we said, oh, well, Def Jam, Tommy Boy, then even going to the independents and even the smaller labels, everybody's passing. No one wants to pick up this record that's fully done, has the artwork and everything, and is ready to roll. And, at that time, there weren't like the other outlets where you could put it out yourself. You really had to get that, either small independent or major behind you to get it into the stores. And it was a disaster. So Doom at that time, just ultimately depressed over losing his brother and being dropped. Got a little money from Elektra to live off of. I helped him out going for a while. And then I didn't know this till years later, but he actually moved to Boston because I think his brother Dim was up in Boston and was there going back and forth to Long Island for maybe a year or so. And then he ended up going down south. And I didn't learn till recently that he was in D.C. area and then in Atlanta too. So, it wasn't until maybe, I don't know, the 2000s, when Mad Villain came out, that Spin Magazine called me for quotes on, feature articles they were doing on Doom. Like Doom, was very elusive all the way around from that point on. Like there were very few people that I think Curious George is one of them that he kept in touch with all the way straight throughout. But George is the one who really facilitated and, motivated him to continue and to bring that to Bob too, to continue, and to really make his whole reemergence and reinvention, which is kind of incredible.
Did that make sense, knowing him from day one, so to speak, to see him emerge as MF Doom, or did that take you by surprise when he came out?
No, definitely didn't take me by surprise because Doom, always had that edge to him. And when I had first heard that he was showing up at like Nuyorican poets and with the pantyhose on his face, and so that was like that was just so cool that he would do that and just focus on the rhymes and the lyricism and try to get away from the physical, and the assumptions that someone might make on, like, at that time. And even like that's the time with the flash and the bling and Puffy and everything.
Right.
So it was not surprising at all. And then when he did it on the street level with Bob and with just on vinyl with Fat Beats, that was all just so generic. I mean, when Stretch tells me that he was just crashing at his crib to do the entire album, like, and that he was so obsessed with it and wouldn't even sleep. It was just, and it's like, Doom could be very erratic just with his own living situation, but that's also because he was just so transformed by what he was doing musically at different times. So he would stay a certain place and then be off to the next one. He was not someone to dwell. I mean, unfortunately he had to dwell on the past because I don't think he ever got over losing Sub Rock.
Right.
But I mean, look at what he did.
Before we get out of here, can you tell me your best overall memory of Zev Love X?
I mean, I think just bonding with him musically and lyrically. And I think, like, I had some cassettes that Stretch like digitized for me, and when they were doing their tribute the other day, like, Stretch called me up and said, "Yo, Pete," and he played me something on the phone. He goes, "Was this on Black Bastards? Let me play this for you." So I'm listening to him like, "Oh no, that definitely wasn't on Black Bastards." I kind of remembered it, and then he said, "Oh yeah, it's this cassette that you gave me called, it says Scrambled Eggs," and I'm like, "Oh shit, Scrambled Eggs." So Scrambled Eggs was a jam that was supposed to be on Black Bastards, kind of done at the end. And it was a dope song. I loved it, and I can remember when Doom actually played it for me, and that's why I had the actual cassette. And by hearing that now, and Stretch said, can I play that? I'm like, yeah, sure, of course you can play it. And but the fact that with Doom passing, like, his music basically lives on, and like he was 100% about his art and his music. So I think, like, it's kind of like a testament to him, like something that no one even heard before, like, from 10, 15 years ago.
Right.
That I was here over the phone with Stretch. Remember, people hear it on the radio, and it just, adds to his whole catalog and his legacy. And I know, for him, the villain, that was the utmost to him. And he was always true to himself, never, gave in to any type of, caving into conformity. And, he kept it real all the time.
Right. What do you think, what kind of legacy he's going to leave behind?
I mean, at this point, look at the outpouring. Everyone who's like a fan of MF Doom, some people don't even know, like, my man Van Silk, the famous, promoter from the old school, who did Rap Mania, who Doom performed with us on Rap Mania. Actually, was Doom with us at Rap Mania? All right, either way. Van Silk didn't know that Zev Love X was MF Doom. Like, it's like people even from different generations. He did such a good job of transforming himself. A lot of people that knew him in both realms didn't even put two and two together.
Right.
So, there's a certain mystery, and that, like, goes to, like, the birth date and everything. Someone I saw did a comment with one of his lines where it was like 1971. So, which was 1971, but the person probably said, "Oh, 1 January 9th, 1971. Maybe that's the the reason why that birthday was put up on Wikipedia or whatever.
Right.
But like I said, it's like he's an enigma, you know?
Right. I want to
What more can you say?
I want to thank you everything for you've done for the culture, Pete Nice, everything you've done for me personally. Um, I want to set my next guest up properly. The photographer Ernie Panicoli.
Oh,
Yeah,
you got to give a shout out and my love to Ernie. Ernie from back, he was photographing KMD, third base. He was the main photographer that Van Silk let photograph Rap Mania. So like some of the best photos that I would say that I could have myself were done by Ernie, and in particular one with me, Cool Herc, Lovebug Starsky, Just Ice, and LL at the Apollo at Rap Mania. Like that, Ernie was there. He did it. He's the man.
can you leave us with one great story before we leave? It's the photo with you, Eazy-E, Dr. Dre, and Zev Love X. Can you take us back to that night? What was going on?
That was from our album party at the Palace on Sunset Boulevard in LA. So, you know, we just had success with Step Into AM album drops, Gas Face coming out. Doom is on the road with us. And, you know, we're like starstruck. You know, you got NWA there. You got all the groups from New York came. De La was there. LL was there. LL actually stole the show. He ended up coming on at the end of our set and just like doing all the material from Mama Said Knock You Out and just like went berserk, you know. So Doom was up on stage, you know, it was like he was in his glory, you know what I'm saying? Like just looking at that picture, you see him like, you know, between Dre. It's like a lot of people think that photo was like Photoshop, you know, they think it's a fake photo, but no, that shit is real.
No doubt.
So that just shows you like what Doom in a very short time was put into, like that world. And then he just transformed and created his own world beyond that. And that's, you know, one of the special things about Doom.
And that was Ernie's shot, right?
No, actually that was like my camera. I think maybe my road manager took that one.
Okay.
Yeah, so no, Ernie has great shots, but that's not one of them. I think my road manager took that one, or maybe Daddy Rich, whoever. Like, you know, you got the camera and you hand it to whoever's right next to you
Right.
to get the flip. You know.
No doubt.
Yeah, but no, Ernie has such a, and you know, shout out to Cornell Hip Hop Collection because they have Ernie, you know, a portion of Ernie's archive that they digitized and put up online to preserve. And I mean, that really is such an asset for hip hop scholarship and for education. It's like, you know, a real, the basis of their entire image collection is Ernie's archive. And, you know, for Ernie to, you know, be in the position to do that and for his generosity to let them, you know, acquire it. Because I know a lot of people wanted Ernie's collection, and he definitely wasn't fucking with them. And I know from Ernie, you know, he said that Catherine and Ben like really came correct, and you know, did exactly what he wanted.
So, like I said,
shout out to Ernie.
Thank you and salute to you. Before you get out of here, can you tell everybody where they can continue to follow you at social media wise?
Oh yeah, I'm over just on Instagram at Rushtown298. I got a Twitter called at Halls of Shame, but I don't really post that much on there. Mostly just on Instagram. And just for people to know that me and Paradise from the X Clan, where he's the head curator and I'm the co-curator of the Universal Hip Hop Museum. So we just did unveiled an exhibition documenting the history in hip hop from 1980 through 85, and that's up at the Bronx Terminal Market in the Boogie Down Bronx. We're closed right now because of the pandemic, just for a couple of weeks, but with Black History Month, we're going to open up with a big bang, also with, I think, a virtual tour for people who can't get into New York City at this time because of the pandemic. And me and Paradise are also working on illustrated history of hip-hop from 1983 to 92, which has the most incredible, you know, photography, flyers, ephemera, all types of weird shit that document chronologically the entire history from that period. So look out for that too.
Thank you so much, sir. The stories were crucial, as everybody commented. I'm sure they enjoyed everything. You were a crucial piece to the story. Stay safe and thank you for your time.
No, glad to be here, and rest in peace, Doom.
Thank you so much. Rest in peace, Doom. Enjoy your day.
Peace.
Peace.